The crack of Officer Malik Mitchell's boot against flesh echoed through Millstone District Court like a gunshot. Papers flew. Gasps filled the air. A black woman lay sprawled on the marble floor, her briefcase skidding across the polished surface. "Get this trash out of my courtroom!" Mitchell roared, his face twisted with rage. But as she slowly rose, straightening her suit jacket with deliberate calm, the entire room would soon discover she wasn't just any woman, she was Lena Carter, their new police chief. Stay with me through this incredible story and drop a comment about which city you're watching from. I love seeing how far these stories travel. The morning sun cast long shadows through the towering windows of Millstone District Court, painting golden stripes across the worn marble floors that had witnessed decades of justice and injustice. It was 8:47 a.m. on a Tuesday that would change everything, though no one knew it yet. The usual crowd shuffled through, security lawyers clutching coffee-stained briefcases, defendants wearing their best clothes like armor, family members with worry etched deep into their faces. Officer Malik Mitchell stood near the metal detector, his uniform crisp despite the early hour, his badge gleaming with an authority he wielded like a weapon. 23 years on the force had carved him into something hard and bitter, though he'd tell anyone who'd listen that the streets had made him this way. The truth was simpler and uglier. Mitchell had always been this way. The badge just gave him permission. "Move faster," he barked at an elderly Hispanic woman struggling with her purse at the security checkpoint. "We don't have all day, señora." The woman's hands trembled as she fumbled with the zipper. Her granddaughter, maybe 16, stepped forward to help. "She doesn't speak much English, officer. Let me—" "Did I ask you?" Mitchell's voice cut through the morning bustle like a blade. "Get back in line." This was Mitchell's kingdom, these 30 feet of courthouse entrance where his word was law. His partner, Officer Danny Chen, younger by 15 years and newer by 20, stood awkwardly to the side. Chen had learned in his first week not to challenge Mitchell, not if he wanted to survive in this precinct. "Mitchell, ease up," Chen muttered under his breath, barely audible. "It's just an old lady." Mitchell's head snapped toward him. "What was that, rookie?" "Nothing, sir." "That's what I thought." Mitchell's lips curled into something that wasn't quite a smile. "You want to last here, Chen? You better learn how things work. This city's got a cancer, and we're the cure. Sometimes medicine tastes bitter." Chen said nothing, but his jaw tightened. He'd heard Mitchell's philosophy before, usually accompanied by stories of the good old days, when cops could do their job without bleeding hearts getting in the way. Chen had joined the force to help people to make a difference. 6 months in, he was beginning to wonder if he'd made a terrible mistake. The morning crowd continued to flow through security, a river of humanity that Mitchell surveyed with the cold eyes of a predator. He'd already written up 3 people for disorderly conduct: a mother who'd questioned why her baby's formula had to be thrown out, a construction worker who'd forgotten about a box cutter in his pocket, and a teenager whose music was apparently too loud even though his headphones were on. "Power trip much," someone whispered in the line. Mitchell's eyes scanned the crowd, searching for the source. His hand moved instinctively to his baton. "Who said that? Silence." "That's what I thought. Bunch of cowards." He spat the words like they tasted bad. "This whole city's gone soft." It was then that Lena Carter walked through the courthouse doors. She moved with a quiet confidence that drew eyes without demanding them, dressed in a charcoal gray suit that was professional without being flashy. Her hair was pulled back in a neat bun, and she carried a leather briefcase that had seen better days. A deliberate choice, though no one would know that yet. At 38, Lena had the kind of presence that came from years of fighting battles, both public and private, winning most, learning from all. She'd been in Millstone exactly 72 hours. 3 days since she'd been sworn in as the city's first black female police chief, in a private ceremony that the mayor had insisted remain low-key for security reasons. 3 days of reviewing files that painted a picture of a department rotting from the inside. 3 days of preparing for the war she knew was coming. But today wasn't supposed to be the first battle. Today was reconnaissance. Lena joined the security line observing. The elderly woman was still struggling with her purse tears now streaming down her weathered cheeks as Mitchell berated her in a voice loud enough for everyone to hear. "This is America, comprende? We speak English here. Either figure it out or go back to wherever." "Excuse me, officer." Lena's voice was calm, professional. "Perhaps I could help translate." Mitchell turned slowly, his eyes traveling up and down Lena's frame in a way that made Chen visibly uncomfortable. "And who the hell are you?" "Just someone who speaks Spanish," Lena replied evenly. "The lady is trying to explain that her purse has a broken zipper. She can't open it without—" "I didn't ask for your help." Mitchell stepped closer, using his height advantage to loom over her. "Get back in line before I cite you for obstruction." Lena didn't move. "I'm trying to help expedite your security process. Surely that's not obstruction." The courthouse lobby seemed to hold its breath. Even the usual chatter of lawyers on their phones died down. Everyone watched, waiting to see what would happen when someone finally stood up to Malik Mitchell. "You've got about 3 seconds to move," Mitchell said, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper, "or I'm going to move you myself." "I don't think that would be appropriate, officer." Lena's tone remained professional, but there was steel underneath. "I'm simply exercising my right to—" That's when Mitchell snapped. Maybe it was the calm in her voice. Maybe it was the way she didn't cower like everyone else. Maybe it was the fact that she was a black woman who dared to challenge his authority in his domain. Whatever the reason, 23 years of barely controlled rage erupted in a single moment of violence. His boot connected with her midsection with a force that lifted her off her feet. The crack of impact echoed through the marble halls. Lena flew backward, her briefcase spinning away papers scattering like white birds across the floor. She hit the ground hard, the breath knocked from her lungs. "Get this trash out of my courtroom," Mitchell roared, spittle flying from his mouth. "I'm so sick of you people thinking you can come in here and tell me how to do my job." The lobby erupted. Some people screamed. Others pulled out their phones recording. Chen stood frozen, his hand halfway to his radio, unsure whether to call for backup or try to restrain his partner. But Lena Carter didn't scream. She didn't cry. She lay there for a moment, assessing not the pain, though her ribs would be bruised for weeks, but the situation. The angles of the cameras, the witnesses, the look of savage satisfaction on Mitchell's face. Perfect. She rose slowly, deliberately, each movement controlled, despite the pain shooting through her torso. Her suit was dusty, but intact. A small cut on her lip leaked a thin line of blood that she wiped away with the back of her hand. The lobby watched in stunned silence as she straightened her jacket, smoothed her skirt, and then reached into her inside pocket. "Officer Mitchell," she said, her voice carrying across the now silent lobby. "Badge number 2847. Mitchell laughed an ugly sound. "Yeah, you're gonna file a complaint. Get in line, sweetheart. I've got a whole file of them, and guess what? I'm still here." Lena pulled out her identification and held it up. The gold shield caught the morning light, sending reflections dancing across the walls. "Lena Carter, Millstone Police Chief. And as of this moment, you're suspended pending investigation for assault." The color drained from Mitchell's face so fast that Chen later swore he could actually see it happening, like water circling a drain. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. No sound came out. "That's—" Mitchell's voice cracked. "That's not possible. Chief Williams. Retired last week." Lena picked up her scattered papers with the same deliberate calm, though every movement sent fire through her ribs. "I was sworn in 3 days ago. Private ceremony. The mayor thought it would be good for me to observe the department unofficially for a few days before the public announcement." She paused, meeting his eyes. "I'd say I've observed enough." "This is a setup." Mitchell sputtered, his bravado crumbling. "You entrapped me. You came here deliberately to enter a courthouse." Yes, Officer Mitchell, I deliberately came to enter a public building. What you did after that was entirely your choice. Chen finally found his voice. Chief Carter, I tried to. I'm sorry, I should have. Lena held up a hand. Officer Chen, you're not responsible for your partner's actions. But I will want a full statement from you about everything you've witnessed, not just today, but during your time partnered with Officer Mitchell. Chen nodded rapidly, relief and fear warring on his young face. Mitchell's hand moved to his weapon, not drawing it, but resting there a threat and a promise. You can't do this. You don't know who I am, what I've done for this city. I've got connections. The union won't stand for. The union will stand for exactly what I tell them to stand for. A new voice interrupted. Everyone turned to see a small, fierce woman pushing through the crowd. Rosa Martinez, president of the police union for the last 8 years, looked like someone's grandmother until you noticed her eyes sharp as broken glass and twice as dangerous. Rosa, Mitchell breathed. Thank God. Tell this woman she can't. Shut up, Malik. Rosa's voice could have frozen hell. I've been fielding complaints about you for 15 years. Every time you skated by. Every time someone higher up made it go away. But you just kicked the police chief on camera in front of 50 witnesses. She turned to Lena. Chief Carter, the union will cooperate fully with your investigation. That's not Rosa, you can't. Mitchell's voice rose to near hysteria. After everything I've done, all the dirt I've... Choose your next words very carefully, Officer Mitchell. Lena interrupted, her voice sharp. Everything you say is being recorded by at least a dozen phones, and I'd hate for you to add witness intimidation to your charges. Mitchell's mouth snapped shut. His eyes darted around the room like a trapped animal taking in the phones, the faces, the way even his fellow officers were backing away from him. This was supposed to be his kingdom. These were supposed to be his people. Chen, Lena said, not taking her eyes off Mitchell. Please relieve Officer Mitchell of his weapon and badge. Chen hesitated for only a moment before stepping forward. Malik, come on. Don't make this worse. You little rat, Mitchell hissed at Chen. You're nothing. He's an officer doing his duty, Lena cut in, which is more than I can say for you. Chen's hands shook slightly as he unclipped Mitchell's badge, removed his gun, his baton, his radio. Each item removed seemed to diminish Mitchell like watching a snake shed its skin in reverse. By the time Chen stepped back, Mitchell looked smaller, older, just a man in a uniform that no longer meant anything. This isn't over, Mitchell said, but the threat sounded hollow now. You don't know what you've started. This department, this whole city runs on what? Officer Mitchell. Lena stepped closer, close enough that only he could hear her next words. On fear. On corruption. On the understanding that some people matter and others don't. You're right. I don't know everything about how this city runs, but I'm going to find out. Every dirty secret, every buried complaint, every victim you and others like you silenced. She raised her voice so everyone could hear, starting with the case of Lena Carter. Mitchell's face went from pale to ashen. How do you know about the young man you framed for theft 5 years ago, the one who spent 8 months in jail for a crime he didn't commit, the one whose sister swore she'd prove his innocence? Lena smiled, and it was sharp as winter. I know, because Lena Carter is my brother, and I've spent 5 years gathering evidence. Your assault on me today, that's just the latest piece. The lobby erupted again, but this time with gasps of recognition, murmurs of shock. Several people were typing frantically on their phones, already spreading the story. You planned this, Mitchell whispered. You came here knowing... I came here to observe, Lena corrected. To see firsthand how officers in my department treat the public. You showed me, quite clearly. Chief Carter? Chen spoke up, his voice steadier now. Should I call for a unit to transport Officer Mitchell? Former Officer Mitchell, Lena corrected. And yes, have him taken to the station for booking. Booking. Mitchell's voice cracked. You can't arrest me. I'm a cop. You were a cop, Lena said. Now you're a suspect in an assault case with 50 witnesses and video evidence. Officer Chen, please read him his rights. Chen pulled out his card, though he knew the words by heart. There was something surreal about reading Miranda rights to a man who'd been his partner an hour ago. Malik Mitchell, you have the right to remain silent. As Chen read, Lena turned to address the crowd that had gathered. The elderly Hispanic woman was still there, tears on her face, but now for a different reason. The teenager who'd been told to step back. The construction worker. The mother with her baby. All the people Mitchell had terrorized that morning and countless mornings before. I want to apologize, Lena began, her voice carrying despite the pain in her ribs. Not just for what happened today, but for what's been happening in this courthouse in this city for far too long. When officers abuse their power, it breaks the trust between law enforcement and the community we're supposed to serve. That ends now. Someone started clapping, then another. Soon the lobby filled with applause, though Lena raised her hand to quiet it. Don't applaud yet, she said. Removing one bad officer doesn't fix a broken system. This is just the beginning. There will be a full investigation not just into Officer Mitchell, but into anyone who enabled him, covered for him, or participated in similar behavior. Some of you may be contacted as witnesses. Some of you may have stories of your own to tell. My office door is open. What about the others? Someone called out. Mitchell's not the only one. You're right, Lena acknowledged. He's not, which is why effective immediately, I'm establishing an independent review board for all complaints against officers. No more internal investigations that go nowhere. No more complaints that mysteriously disappear. Mitchell laughed bitterly from where Chen was cuffing him. You have no idea what you're doing. The whole system will turn against you. You'll be gone in a month. Maybe, Lena said, turning to face him one last time. But in that month, I'll make sure your victims get justice, starting with my brother. Two uniformed officers arrived, ones Lena had already identified as clean from her preliminary review of personnel files. They looked uncomfortable taking one of their own into custody, but they did it. As they led Mitchell away, he turned back one more time. You think you're some kind of hero, he spat. You're nothing. I'm your new chief, Lena interrupted. And you're under arrest. Officers, take him away. As Mitchell was escorted out, still shouting threats and obscenities that grew fainter with distance, the lobby began to return to something like normal, but not quite. There was an energy in the air, electric and dangerous and hopeful, all at once. Chen approached Lena hesitantly. Chief Carter, I want to apologize again. I should have done something sooner. I knew Mitchell was wrong, but I was afraid. Fear is a powerful tool, Officer Chen. Mitchell knew how to use it. But courage. She looked around the lobby at the people, still recording, still watching, still hoping. Courage is contagious. You showed courage today by following lawful orders despite your partner's behavior. That took strength. It didn't feel like strength, Chen admitted. It felt like betrayal. Sometimes doing the right thing does. But let me ask you something, Officer Chen. How many complaints have been filed against Mitchell in the 6 months you've been partnered with him? Chen's face darkened. At least a dozen that I know of, probably more. And what happened to those complaints? They disappeared. Mitchell would laugh about it, said he had friends in all the right places. Not anymore. Lena pulled out a small notebook, wincing at the movement. I want you to write down everything. Every complaint you witnessed. Every instance of excessive force. Every time evidence mysteriously vanished. Can you do that? Chen nodded firmly. Yes, Chief. But won't that make me a target? It might, Lena admitted. Which is why I'm assigning you a new partner effective immediately. Someone I trust. And offering you the opportunity to be part of the solution instead of the problem. We're going to rebuild this department, Officer Chen. We're going to make it what it should have been all along. Are you with me? Chen didn't hesitate. Yes, Chief. Rosa Martinez approached, having dispersed the crowd with the efficiency of someone used to managing chaos. "Chief Carter, we need to talk about the media. This is going to explode. Mitchell was right about one thing: he does have connections. They're going to try to spin this." "Let them try," Lena said. "We have video from multiple angles. We have witnesses. We have the truth." "Since when has the truth been enough?" Rosa asked, but there was hope in her cynicism. "Since now," Lena replied. "I want a press conference scheduled for this afternoon. Full transparency. We're not hiding from this." "That's not how things are usually done here." "I'm aware. That's the point." Lena gathered her papers, her briefcase, the remnants of her morning's mission. "Officer Chen, I want you at that press conference. The public needs to see that there are good officers who are willing to stand up for what's right." "Chief," Rosa said carefully, "you should know that Mitchell wasn't wrong about the system protecting its own. You're going to face pushback. The mayor might have appointed you, but there are people with power who won't appreciate what you're doing." "I'm counting on it," Lena said. "Corruption hates sunlight. We're about to illuminate every dark corner of this department." As she prepared to leave, the elderly Hispanic woman approached her granddaughter, translating. "She says thank you," the girl said. "She says you're an answer to prayer." Lena knelt, ignoring the sharp pain in her ribs, and took the woman's weathered hands in hers. In Spanish, she said, "The prayers were yours. I'm just here to help answer them." The woman kissed Lena's forehead, a blessing and a benediction. Outside the courthouse, the morning had given way to a harsh noon sun. News vans were already arriving, someone having tipped them off to the story. Lena stood on the courthouse steps, looking out at the city she'd sworn to protect and serve. Millstone was a city of contradictions. Gleaming skyscrapers, shadowing broken neighborhoods, wealth and poverty separated by streets that might as well be walls, justice and injustice living side by side in uneasy armistice. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "You've made a powerful enemy today. Mitchell was protected for a reason. Back off or face the consequences." Lena deleted the message and pulled up another contact. Her brother Aaron, living 2 states away, trying to rebuild a life that Mitchell had derailed. "It's begun," she texted him. "Mitchell is in custody." His response was immediate. "Be careful, sis. You know what these people are capable of." She did know. That's why she'd come back to Millstone. Not for revenge, though some might call it that. For justice. For Aaron. For every person like that elderly woman who'd been terrorized by those supposed to protect them. Her ribs throbbed with each breath, a reminder of the morning's violence. But pain was just information, and this pain told her she was on the right path. Mitchell had given her exactly what she needed, not just evidence of his brutality, but a public display that couldn't be covered up or explained away. Chen emerged from the courthouse, a thick folder in his hands. "Chief, I've been keeping records. Unofficial ones. Everything I've seen Mitchell do. I was planning to take it to Internal Affairs eventually, but you knew it wouldn't go anywhere," Lena finished. "Internal Affairs is part of what we're investigating now. Can you make copies of everything I want, multiple sets in different locations?" "Already done, Chief. I may be new, but I'm not naive. I knew this day might come." "Then you're already ahead of most." Lena took the folder, feeling its weight, not just physical, but the weight of all the stories contained within. "Tell me about the worst one." Chen's face darkened. "There was a kid about 15. Marcus Washington. Mitchell claimed he matched the description of a robbery suspect. The kid was just walking home from basketball practice. Mitchell, he broke the kid's arm, said he was resisting. The security footage mysteriously corrupted. The kid's family tried to file charges, but they got visited by some very persuasive people who convinced them to drop it." "Where's the family now?" "They moved, couldn't afford to stay and fight." "Find them," Lena ordered. "Tell them the fight's not over if they want to be part of it." Chief, that was 2 years ago. The statute of limitations doesn't apply if we can prove a conspiracy to obstruct justice. Mitchell didn't act alone. Someone corrupted that footage. Someone threatened that family. Someone made those complaints disappear. Lena looked up at the courthouse, its pillars meant to evoke Greek temples to justice. We're not just taking down one bad cop, Chen. We're taking down a system. That's dangerous, Chief. Really dangerous. Yes, it is. Lena started walking toward her car, each step measured despite the pain. Which is why I need to know now, are you in or out? Because once we really start this, there's no halfway. You'll be marked as either a reformer or a rat depending on who's asking. Your life will get complicated. You might lose friends. You'll definitely make enemies. Chen didn't hesitate. I'm in, Chief. I joined the force to help people. Mitchell made me question that every day. You've reminded me why I became a cop. Good. Then your first assignment is to identify every officer in the department you trust. Not think you trust, actually trust with your life. Because that's what we're asking them to risk. As they reached Lena's car, a news reporter rushed over, microphone extended. Chief Carter, is it true you were assaulted by one of your own officers? What does this mean for the department? Lena turned to face the camera, knowing this moment would be replayed endlessly in the coming days. It means that no one is above the law, not even those who enforce it. Especially not those who enforce it. This afternoon, I'll be holding a press conference to discuss the immediate reforms being implemented in the Millstone Police Department. Until then, I have work to do. She got in her car, Chen following in his patrol vehicle. As she drove away from the courthouse, Lena allowed herself one moment of satisfaction. Mitchell had been the obvious target, the low-hanging fruit. His arrogance had made him vulnerable. But he was just the beginning. Her phone rang. Mayor Patricia Williams, the woman who'd appointed her, knowing full well what she intended to do. Lena, I'm hearing concerning reports. Concerning for whom, Mayor? A pause. You know there are people who won't appreciate your methods. My methods? You mean following the law, holding officers accountable, being visible to the public I serve. You know what I mean. Mitchell has friends, had friends. They're already calling my office. Good. Get their names. We'll add them to the investigation. The mayor sighed. You're going to burn a lot of bridges, Lena. No, Mayor. I'm going to burn down bridges that should never have been built. Bridges between law enforcement and criminals. Bridges that let corruption pass back and forth freely. Those bridges need to burn. Just be careful. I can only protect you so much. I'm not asking for protection. I'm asking for time. Give me 6 months. To do what? To clean house. To show this city that justice isn't just a word carved into courthouse stone. To prove that my brother was innocent and that Mitchell and his cronies destroyed his life for their own gain. Your brother. Lena, is this personal? Lena thought about Aaron, about the night he'd called her from jail, confused and terrified, insisting he'd been framed. About the months of investigating she'd done, hitting wall after wall of obstruction. About the moment she'd decided to stop fighting from the outside and take the battle internal. Yes, she said simply. It's personal, but it's also professional. And it's right. Those 3 things don't have to be mutually exclusive. 6 months, the mayor agreed. But Lena, if this goes sideways, then you'll have every right to fire me. But it won't go sideways, Patricia. It's going to go exactly where it needs to go forward. She hung up and continued driving, her ribs aching with each turn of the wheel. The city passed by her windows, the good and the bad, the rich and the poor, the protected and the vulnerable. Millstone was about to change. It wouldn't be easy. It wouldn't be safe. But it was necessary. Her phone buzzed with notifications. The video was already going viral. Racist cop kicks police chief was trending. The comments ranged from outrage to support to the inevitable trolls. But mixed in were stories, people sharing their own encounters with Mitchell with others like him. The dam was breaking. Chen called. "Chief, you need to know officers are already choosing sides. Some are saying you set Mitchell up. Others are saying it's about time. It's getting heated." "Good. Let them argue. Let them reveal themselves. The ones who think what Mitchell did was acceptable, they're next." "Chief, with all due respect, you can't take on the entire department." "Watch me," Lena said. "Actually, no. Join me. Because I'm not doing this alone. Every good cop who's been silenced, every officer who's had to look the other way to survive, every person who joined the force to make a difference, they're all going to be part of this." She pulled into the police station parking lot. Officers were clustered in groups talking in hushed tones. When they saw her car, some dispersed. Others stood their ground staring. She could see the division already, those who looked away in shame or fear, and those who met her eyes with challenge or respect. Lena parked and stepped out, not bothering to hide her wince of pain. Let them see she was human. Let them see she could be hurt. And let them see that she kept coming anyway. Inside the station, the desk sergeant, an older woman named Dolores, who'd been there for 30 years, stood up as Lena entered. "Chief Carter, how are you feeling?" "Like I got kicked by a racist cop," Lena replied. "But I've felt worse." Dolores nodded slowly. "I've been waiting 20 years for someone to do something about Mitchell. I've got files, Chief. Copies of every complaint that was made to disappear. I kept them all." Lena stopped. "You did?" "My nephew was one of his victims, 15 years ago. Mitchell planted drugs on him during a traffic stop. My nephew went to prison. He died there." Dolores's voice was steady, but her eyes burned. "I've been waiting for justice ever since." "You'll have it," Lena promised. "Bring me everything." As she made her way to her office, still strange to think of it that way after only 3 days, Lena passed the holding cells. Mitchell was there, still in his uniform, minus the badges of authority, sitting on a bench with his head in his hands. He looked up as she passed. "This won't stick," he said, but the bravado was gone. "My lawyer will have me out in an hour." "Maybe," Lena agreed. "But the charges will remain. The investigation will continue, and everyone will know what you are." "What I am." Mitchell stood gripping the bars. "I'm a cop who kept these streets safe for 23 years. I did what needed to be done." "No. You're a bully who used his badge as a weapon. There's a difference between keeping people safe and keeping them scared. You never learned that difference." "You think you're better than me? You think you're some kind of hero? You're just another diversity hire, another box checked to make the mayor look good." Lena stepped closer to the bars, close enough that Mitchell instinctively backed up. "I graduated top of my class from the academy. I have a master's in criminal justice. I've served in 3 different departments, each time leaving them better than I found them. I earned this position. You earned a jail cell." She left him there and continued to her office, where Chen was waiting with Rosa Martinez and 3 other officers she didn't recognize. "Chief," Rosa began, "these are officers who want to be part of the solution. Officers Jameson, Patel, and Washington." Lena studied them. Jameson was older, weathered, with the look of someone who'd seen too much. Patel was young, eager, nervous. Washington was somewhere in between, watchful and careful. "Why?" she asked simply. Jameson spoke first. "Because I've been a cop for 18 years, and I'm tired of being ashamed of my badge. Mitchell and his crew, they've made us all look bad. Citizens cross the street when they see us coming. Kids run. That's not what I signed up for." Patel nodded. "I've only been here 2 years, but I've already been pressured to look the other way more times than I can count. I want to do real police work, not be part of some protection racket." Washington was quiet for a moment. "Mitchell arrested my cousin 6 years ago. Planted evidence. I couldn't prove it, couldn't do anything about it. I've been waiting for this day." "This day is just the beginning," Lena warned. "What comes next will be harder. We're going to review every arrest Mitchell ever made, every case he touched. Some of them will lead to other officers. Maybe officers you consider friends. Are you prepared for that? They all nodded. Good. Then here's what happens next. Jameson. I want you to head up a team reviewing Mitchell's cases. Start with the last 5 years. Look for patterns. Patel, you're going to work with Chen to identify other officers we can trust. Build our coalition carefully. Washington, you're with me on the Lena Carter case. I want everything, every document, every witness statement, every piece of evidence that was supposedly lost. Chief, Rosa interrupted. The press conference is in 2 hours. What's your message going to be? Lena walked to the window looking out at the city. The truth. That we have a problem. That we're going to fix it. That anyone who doesn't want to be part of the solution should start looking for other employment. That's bold. That's necessary. Lena turned back to them. For too long, this department has operated on fear and silence. We're going to operate on transparency and accountability. Yes, it will be messy. Yes, it will be painful. But it's the only way forward. Her phone rang. An unknown number, but she answered anyway. Chief Carter. The voice was male, older, carefully neutral. This is Judge Harold Morrison. I think we should talk. Morrison, the judge who had presided over Aaron's case. The judge who had refused to admit evidence that might have exonerated him. The judge who had been seen having dinner with Mitchell more than once. Judge Morrison, I agree, we should talk. In my office. With a court reporter present. A pause. I was thinking something more informal. I'm sure you were, but we're done with informal. We're done with backroom deals and off-the-record conversations. If you have something to say to me, you can say it officially. You're making a mistake, Chief. You don't understand how things work in Millstone. No, Judge. You don't understand how things are going to work from now on. My office. 1 hour. Or I'll assume you have nothing productive to add to our investigation. She hung up before he could respond. The room was quiet. Everyone was staring at her. You just challenged Judge Morrison, Rosa said slowly. He's been on the bench for 20 years. He has connections you can't imagine. Good. Let him use them. Let him call in every favor, every threat, every dirty trick. Let them all reveal themselves trying to protect Mitchell and the system that created him. Lena sat down at her desk, wincing. I want every corrupt official, every dirty cop, every compromised judge to show their hand. Makes our job easier. Or it makes you a target, Chen said quietly. I've been a target since the day my brother was arrested for a crime he didn't commit. The only difference is, now I'm shooting back. The hour passed quickly. Lena used it to review the files Dolores had brought, years of complaints against Mitchell, each one stamped, investigated, no action taken, or simply marked, withdrawn. The patterns were clear. Young black men were his favorite targets, but he was an equal opportunity abuser when it came to anyone he saw as beneath him. Judge Morrison arrived exactly on time, which told Lena he was taking this seriously. He was a tall man, silver-haired, with the kind of presence that commanded courtrooms. But in her office, he looked smaller, older, tired. Chief Carter, he began, but she held up a hand. This conversation is being recorded, Judge. I want that clear from the start. His jaw tightened. Very well. I came here to offer you some advice. I'm listening. Mitchell is a symptom, not the disease. You can cut him out. But if you try to go deeper, if you try to dismantle the entire system, you'll fail. And you'll take a lot of good people down with you. Define good people. Morrison sighed. Officers who've served this city for decades, judges who've maintained order, officials who've kept Millstone from descending into chaos. By breaking the law, by destroying innocent lives, by maintaining order through fear and corruption. By making hard choices, by recognizing that sometimes the law needs to bend to serve justice. Lena leaned forward, her ribs protesting. The law doesn't bend, Judge. It either exists or it doesn't. And in my brother's case, it didn't exist. You made sure of that. Morrison's face went still. Your brother was guilty. My brother was framed, and you know it. The evidence that would have proved his innocence was ruled inadmissible by you. The witness who could have alibied him was threatened into silence. The security footage that would have shown Mitchell planting evidence mysteriously vanished. Lena pulled out a file, but not before someone made a copy. Morrison's eyes widened. That's not possible. The store owner kept a backup. He was too scared to come forward then, but he's not scared anymore. She slid a USB drive across the desk. That's a copy. The original is in a safe place. It shows Mitchell planting the stolen goods in my brother's car during the traffic stop. Clear as day. Morrison stood up abruptly. This is inadmissible. The chain of custody won't matter in the court of public opinion, or in the federal investigation that's about to begin. Lena stood too, matching his energy. Oh, did I forget to mention the FBI has been very interested in patterns of civil rights violations in Millstone. Your name keeps coming up. You're bluffing. Call my bluff. Walk out of here. See what happens next. Morrison sat back down, suddenly looking every one of his 70 years. What do you want? Justice. For my brother. For Marcus Washington. For every person Mitchell and others like him have hurt while you looked the other way or actively helped cover it up. I never. You did. Every inadmissible evidence ruling. Every harsh sentence for defendants Mitchell arrested. Every time you had dinner with him and discussed cases off the record, you were part of it. Morrison was quiet for a long moment. If I cooperate, then you retire. Quietly. You make a statement about wanting to spend more time with your family, and you provide information about everyone else involved. And if I don't, then you're the next one in handcuffs, your choice judge. Morrison's hands shook as he straightened his tie. You don't know what you're asking. The people involved, they're powerful. They're dangerous. So am I, Lena said simply. After Morrison left, promising an answer within 24 hours, Lena prepared for the press conference. Her ribs were turning spectacular colors, but she refused pain medication that might cloud her thinking. She needed to be sharp. She needed to be clear. The conference room was packed. Local news, national affiliates, bloggers, citizen journalists. The video of Mitchell kicking her had gone beyond viral. It was everywhere. The world was watching Millstone. Lena stood at the podium, Chen and Rosa flanking her, the other officers who'd pledged support standing behind them. A united front, even if unity was still fragile. Good afternoon, she began. This morning, Officer Malik Mitchell was arrested for assault. The victim was me. The crime was caught on multiple cameras and witnessed by dozens of people. But this isn't about one officer or one incident. This is about a pattern of behavior that has been tolerated, enabled, and protected for far too long. Reporters shouted questions, but she continued. Effective immediately, the Millstone Police Department is under reform. Every complaint against an officer will be reviewed by an independent board that includes civilian members. Every use of force will be investigated. Every officer will undergo retraining on de-escalation and community relations. And any officer who doesn't meet our new standards will find other employment. Chief Carter, a reporter called out. Isn't this a bit extreme for one incident? One incident. Lena pulled out the stack of complaints Dolores had given her. I have here 247 complaints against Officer Mitchell over 23 years. 247 times citizens came forward to report abuse, excessive force, false arrest, planted evidence. 247 times, nothing was done. So no, this isn't about one incident. This is about 247 incidents we know about, and countless more we don't. Another reporter. What about the union? Won't they fight these reforms? Rosa stepped forward. The union supports Chief Carter's reforms. We represent good officers, not bad ones. It's time we remembered that. Chief Carter, another voice called. Is it true Officer Mitchell arrested your brother? Lena had been expecting this. Yes. 5 years ago, Officer Mitchell arrested my brother Aaron Carter for theft. My brother maintained his innocence. Evidence that would have exonerated him was ruled inadmissible or went missing. He served 8 months in jail for a crime he didn't commit. Today, we have video evidence that Officer Mitchell planted the stolen goods in my brother's car. That evidence has been turned over to the FBI. The room erupted. This was the story now, not just police brutality, but corruption cover-ups, personal vendettas. "Are you saying you took this job for revenge?" someone shouted. "I took this job for justice," Lena replied. "For my brother. For every person Officer Mitchell framed. For every family destroyed by corrupt policing. For every good officer whose reputation was tarnished by association with bad ones. If that's revenge, then yes. I'm here for revenge against a broken system." What's your message to other officers who might be involved in corruption? Lena looked directly into the cameras. Come forward now, cooperate fully, help us clean house, or be swept out with the trash. You have 48 hours to decide which side of history you want to be on. And if they don't, then they'll discover what it feels like to be on the wrong side of the law they swore to uphold. The press conference continued for another 30 minutes, but the message was clear. Change had come to Millstone, and it was wearing a badge and carrying the weight of 247 unanswered complaints. As the reporters filed out, Chen approached. "Chief, we've got a problem. Mitchell made bail." "Already, who posted it?" "We're trying to find out. It was cash, untraceable." Lena's phone buzzed. Another unknown number, but this time it was a text with a photo attached. Mitchell standing outside her apartment building. The message read, "You should have left it alone." Lena stared at the photo on her phone screen, her mind racing through tactical assessments even as her hand instinctively moved to where her service weapon should be. Mitchell standing outside her apartment wasn't just a threat, it was a declaration of war. Chen saw her expression change and moved closer. "Chief, what is it?" She showed him the phone. His face went pale. "We need to get units there now." "No," Lena said, surprising him. "That's what they want. Me running scared using department resources for personal protection. It undermines everything I said at the press conference." "But Chief, he's threatening you." "He's revealing himself," Lena corrected. "Mitchell's not smart enough to think of this on his own. Someone's pulling his strings, and they just showed their hand." She pulled up another number on her phone. "Mrs. Rodriguez, it's Lena. I need you to look out your window and tell me if you see a man in a police uniform standing near the building entrance, Mrs." Rodriguez was her neighbor, an elderly woman who spent most of her time by her window better than any security camera. After a moment, the woman's voice came through, worried but determined. "Yes, mija. He's been there about 20 minutes. Just standing watching. There's another man with him in a suit." A suit. That was interesting. "Can you describe him?" "Tall, thin, gray hair. Expensive clothes. He keeps checking his phone." Lena knew that description. Thomas Brennan, one of the city's most notorious defense attorneys. The kind who specialized in getting dirty cops off on technicalities. So Mitchell had already lawyered up with the best money could buy money he shouldn't have. "Thank you, Mrs. Rodriguez. Stay inside and lock your door." She hung up and turned to Chen. "We're going to my apartment, but not the way they expect. Rosa, I need you to handle things here. The reform announcements have to keep moving forward with or without me." Rosa nodded grimly. "Be careful, Chief. These people don't play by rules." "Neither do I. Not anymore." The drive to her apartment took 15 minutes through Millstone's afternoon traffic. Lena used the time to make calls, setting pieces in motion. The FBI contact she'd cultivated for months. The journalist who'd been investigating police corruption for years. The State Attorney General's office. Each call was brief, precise, adding another layer to the net she was weaving. Chen drove, while Lena worked his knuckles white on the steering wheel. "Chief, I have to ask, did you really plan all this, getting Mitchell to assault you?" "I planned to observe," Lena said, not looking up from her phone. "I knew Mitchell's type. Put them in proximity to someone they see as inferior who doesn't show proper deference, and they explode. It was just a matter of time and opportunity." "That's cold. That's strategy. You can't fight corruption with good intentions and proper procedures. They've had decades to perfect their system. The only way to beat them is to make them reveal themselves publicly, undeniably." They parked a block away from her building. From their position, they could see Mitchell and Brennan still standing near the entrance. Mitchell was agitated, pacing, gesturing. Brennan was calm, occasionally putting a restraining hand on Mitchell's arm. "They're waiting for you to come home," Chen observed. "Trying to intimidate you." "They're performing," Lena corrected. "Look at the angles. They're positioned perfectly for the security cameras. When I confront them, it'll look like I'm the aggressor. Brennan will claim Mitchell was just exercising his civil rights standing on a public sidewalk." "So what do we do?" Lena smiled. "We don't play their game. We change it." She pulled out her phone and started recording. "Officer Chen, I want you to approach them. Tell Mitchell he's violating the terms of his bail by attempting to intimidate a witness. When Brennan objects, and he will inform him that standing outside my residence after sending threatening messages constitutes harassment." "They'll deny sending anything." "Of course they will, but it'll be on record that we addressed it. Go." Chen got out of the car, and Lena watched as he approached the two men. She couldn't hear the conversation, but she could read the body language. Mitchell's aggressive posturing, Brennan's smooth deflection. Chen standing his ground despite being outnumbered. After 5 minutes, they left Brennan guiding Mitchell to a black sedan parked nearby. Chen returned slightly shaken, but intact. Brennan says any further harassment of his client will result in a lawsuit. He claims Mitchell was simply in the area visiting a friend. "A friend in my building. How convenient." Lena got out of the car. "Come on, we have work to do." Her apartment was on the 4th floor, a modest one-bedroom she'd rented sight unseen when she took the job. It was sparse, functional, containing only what she needed for the war she'd come to fight. Chen looked around, taking in the boxes of files, the wall covered in pictures and connections, like something out of a crime procedural. "This is," he started. "5 years of investigation," Lena finished. "Every corrupt cop, every dirty judge, every paid-off official in Millstone. Mitchell was just the entry point." Chen moved closer to the wall, studying the connections. "This is bigger than I thought. These names. Chief, some of these people run the city." "Ran. Past tense. They just don't know it yet." Lena pulled down a specific file. "This is what Mitchell is really scared about. Not the assault charge that's minor compared to this." The file was thick, documenting a protection racket run out of the 3rd precinct. Drugs seized in raids that never made it to evidence. Money that disappeared. Dealers who walked free after paying the right people. And at the center of it all, Officer Malik Mitchell. "He wasn't just taking bribes," Chen breathed. "He was running his own operation. With help. Look at the patterns. Every time Mitchell made a big arrest, somehow the suspect's competition would disappear. He was eliminating rivals for whoever paid him most." "We need to get this to—" A crash interrupted him. The window exploded, inward glass showering across the room. Lena pulled Chen down behind the couch as a second projectile flew through a brick with a message tied to it. "Stay down," she ordered, pulling her service weapon. She waited, listening, but there was no follow-up attack. After a moment, she carefully retrieved the brick. The message was simple. Last warning. Chen was on his radio calling for backup, but Lena was studying the brick itself. New, probably purchased recently. She'd bet money that if they checked hardware stores in the area, they'd find security footage of someone buying it. Someone careless, Someone angry. Someone like Mitchell. Cancel that backup, she told Chen. Chief, someone just attacked. Someone threw a brick through a window. If we make a big deal of it, we look weak. We document it, we file a report, we add it to the charges, but we don't panic. She took photos of everything: the window, the brick, the message. Besides, this is good. Good, Chief. With all due respect, how is this good? Because they're scared. You don't threaten someone who isn't a threat. You don't try to intimidate someone who isn't making progress. She looked at the shattered window, feeling the cold air rush in. They just told me I'm on the right track. Her phone rang. Judge Morrison. Chief Carter, I've made my decision. I'll cooperate fully. But I need protection. From whom? Everyone. You have no idea how deep this goes. Mitchell is nothing. He's a foot soldier. The people really in charge. His voice cracked. They've already called me. Told me what happens if I talk. What did they say? That judges can have accidents too. That my grandchildren are beautiful. Chief, these aren't empty threats. They've killed before. Lena felt the weight of that admission. She'd suspected, but knowing was different. Who have they killed, Judge? Detective Raymond Walsh, 3 years ago. He was investigating the protection racket. His car went off a bridge. No skid marks. No mechanical problems. Just drove straight off. Chen's face went white. He'd known Walsh had looked up to him. There were others, Morrison continued. A prosecutor who got too close. A witness who wouldn't stay quiet. A journalist who asked too many questions. All accidents or suicides or random violence. But we knew. We all knew. Then help me stop them, Lena said. Come to the station. Make an official statement. Name names. I can't. Not yet. I need to get my family somewhere safe first. 24 hours, Judge. Then I'm coming for you with a warrant. She hung up and turned to Chen, who was still processing what he'd heard. Detective Walsh was murdered. Apparently. Which means we're not just fighting corruption. We're fighting killers with badges. Chief, maybe we should call in federal help now. This is beyond... No, not yet. The moment we bring in the feds officially, everyone scatters. They destroy evidence, intimidate witnesses, close ranks. We need to build an airtight case first. She moved to her wall of connections, pointing to specific nodes. But we can start applying pressure here, here, and here. Make them react. Make them make mistakes. That's dangerous. Everything about this is dangerous, Chen. The question is whether we're willing to accept that danger to clean up our city. Before Chen could respond, Lena's phone buzzed with an alert. The video from the courthouse that morning had been picked up by national news. CNN was running it on loop. The headline, Police Chief Attacked by Her Own Officer, Corruption Scandal Rocks Millstone. That changes things, Chen said. National attention means... It means they can't make me disappear without everyone noticing, Lena finished. It's protection of a sort, but it also means they'll get desperate. Desperate people do stupid things. As if to prove her point, her phone rang. Unknown number. Chief Carter? This is Councilman Richard Hayes. I think we should meet. Hayes. He was on her wall, connected to 3 different dirty cops and a construction company that had won suspicious city contracts. Another player revealing himself. Certainly, Councilman. My office tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. I was thinking somewhere more private. I'm sure you were. My office or not at all. You're making a mistake, Chief. I'm trying to help you. No, you're trying to control damage. 9 a.m., Councilman. She hung up and looked at Chen. Go home. Get some rest. Tomorrow the real war begins. What about you? Your window is broken. Mitchell knows where you live. I won't be here. She grabbed a go bag she'd kept packed since arriving in Millstone. I've got a safe place. But Chen, you need to be careful too. Once they realize you're with me, really with me, you'll become a target. Chen straightened his shoulders. Let them come. I joined the force to be one of the good guys. About time I actually got to be one. After Chen left, Lena made one more call. Her brother Aaron, 2 states away. Lena, I saw the news. Are you okay? I'm fine. Mitchell's in custody. The video's everywhere. He kicked you. I saw it. I wanted to. Aaron's voice was thick with emotion. When I saw it was him, the same cop who... I know. But Aaron, this is bigger than just Mitchell. I'm going after all of them. Everyone who was involved in framing you. Lena, no. It's too dangerous. I already lost 18 months of my life. I can't lose my sister too. You won't, I promise. But I need you to know your name is going to come up. The media will probably try to contact you. Are you prepared for that? A long pause. I've been preparing for 5 years. If telling my story helps stop them from doing it to someone else, then yes, I'm ready. I love you, little brother. Love you too, sis. Be careful. Lena gathered her files, taking only the most critical ones. The rest she'd already scanned and stored in multiple secure locations. As she prepared to leave, she looked once more at her wall of connections. Mitchell's photo was at the center, but the web spread outward to encompass judges, politicians, business owners, other cops. A cancer that had metastasized throughout Millstone's body politic. Tomorrow, she'd start cutting it out. Tonight, she needed to survive. She left through the building's back entrance, a route she'd scouted on her first day. The safe house was a small apartment across town, rented under an alias she'd established years ago when she first started investigating Aaron's case. It was nothing special, a studio with basic furniture and reinforced locks, but it was unknown to anyone in Millstone. As she drove, she noticed a car following her. Black sedan, 2 cars back matching her turns. She'd expected this. Instead of trying to lose them, she led them on a tour of the city, past the courthouse, where it had all started this morning, past the precinct where Mitchell had operated for 23 years, past the restaurant where judges and dirty cops met to make their deals. Finally, she pulled into a 24-hour diner, bright lights and witnesses everywhere. The sedan continued past, but she caught a glimpse of the driver. One of Mitchell's known associates, Officer Dennis Murphy, another name on her wall. Inside the diner, she ordered coffee and called Rosa Martinez. I've got a tail, Murphy. Murphy's dirty. Up to his neck. He was Mitchell's backup on at least 12 questionable arrests. I've got evidence he helped plant drugs in 3 of them. Jesus. How many? At current count 17 officers, definitely dirty, another 23 probably involved. That's out of a department of 200. 20% of our force is corrupt. That we know of, the real number is probably higher. Rosa was quiet for a moment. We can't arrest them all at once. The department would collapse. No, but we can make them turn on each other. Mitchell's arrest has them scared. Morrison's about to flip. Once one really talks, others will follow to save themselves. Or they'll close ranks and fight back. That's why we need to move fast, keep them off balance, make them react instead of plan. Chief, I've been thinking. What if Mitchell wasn't working for someone? What if he was the boss? Lena had considered this. He's not smart enough. Someone's been protecting him, guiding him, using him. Mitchell's middle management at best. Then who's at the top? That's what we're going to find out. She stayed at the diner for an hour, making sure Murphy had given up and left. Then she took a circuitous route to the safe house, doubling back twice, running one red light to see if anyone followed. Finally satisfied she was alone, she settled in for the night. But sleep wouldn't come. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Mitchell's boot coming at her, felt the impact, the shock of violence, even though she'd expected it. She'd used her own body as bait, and it had worked, but the bruises were turning purple-black, and every breath reminded her of the price. Her phone buzzed. Chen texting, "Made it home safe. Wife's not happy about any of this." She understood. Chen had a family, something to lose. Most of the good cops did. That's how the bad ones maintained control, through fear of what would happen to loved ones who challenged the system. Another text, this one from an unknown number. You think you're safe. We know about the safe house. We know about everything. A bluff, probably. If they really knew where she was, they wouldn't warn her. But it was meant to keep her off balance, make her paranoid, doubt her security. Classic intimidation tactics. She pulled out her laptop and started writing. Not reports or official documents, but the real story. Names, dates, connections. Everything she'd learned in 5 years of investigation. If something happened to her, she wanted a record that couldn't be suppressed or destroyed. At 3 a.m., her phone rang. Dolores from the station. Chief, you need to know. Officers are choosing sides. Some are with you, but others are organizing. They're calling it a coup, saying you're destroying the department. Who's leading them? Captain Frank Reynolds from the 3rd Precinct. He's calling for a vote of no confidence from the Union. Reynolds. Another name on her wall. Mitchell's former partner promoted despite multiple excessive force complaints. Of course he'd fight back. Let him call for his vote. Rosa won't support it. Chief, Rosa's getting pressure too. Threats against her family. She's tough, but I'll handle it. Thank you for the warning, Dolores. There's more. The mayor's been getting calls. Big donors threatening to pull support if you're not removed. They're saying you're bad for business. Of course they were. The protection racket, the bribes, the looking the other way, it was all business to them. Dirty business that lined pockets and kept certain people in power. The mayor knew what she was getting when she hired me. Did she? Because word is, she's having second thoughts. Lena stared at the ceiling of the unfamiliar apartment. Everything was moving faster than she'd anticipated. Mitchell's arrest had been a catalyst, but the reaction was more violent, more organized than expected. They weren't just going to fight back, they were going to try to destroy her. Good. Let them try. She opened her laptop again and started typing an email to her contact at the FBI. Not asking for help, not yet. But documenting everything, creating a trail that couldn't be erased if something happened to her. Subject insurance policy, she typed. If you're reading this, it means they won. But even if they win this battle, they won't win the war. Attached is everything 5 years of investigation, names, dates, crimes. Make sure it sees the light of day. She attached the files encrypted and password protected, with instructions to be released if she didn't check in every 48 hours. Then she sent copies to 3 journalists, 2 lawyers she trusted, and Aaron. Dawn was breaking over Millstone, painting the sky the color of an old bruise. Somewhere in the city, Mitchell was probably meeting with his associates planning their counterstrike. Judge Morrison was maybe packing his family's belongings, preparing to run or talk. The mayor was definitely fielding phone calls from angry donors. And in a sparse safe house apartment, Lena Carter prepared for war. Her phone buzzed with a text from Chen. Check the news. She pulled up the local news site. The headline made her blood run cold. Officer Dennis Murphy found dead in apparent suicide. The article was brief. Murphy's body had been found in his car, gun in hand. Apparent self-inflicted wound. A note expressing remorse for unspecified actions. Lena knew better. Murphy had been following her last night, which meant he'd been given orders by someone. Now he was dead just hours later. Either he'd genuinely killed himself out of fear of exposure, or someone had murdered him and staged it. Either way, the message was clear: those who might talk wouldn't live long enough to do so. She called Chen immediately. Did you know Murphy? Not well. He kept to himself mostly. Chief, this doesn't feel like suicide. It's not. It's either fear or silencing. Either way, it means they're eliminating loose ends. Chief, if they killed Murphy, then we're all in danger. I know. Chen, I need you to do something for me. Quietly gather any officers you trust completely. Not just think you trust, absolutely trust with your life. We're going to need protection for witnesses. How many witnesses are we talking about? Every single person who's ever filed a complaint against Mitchell or his associates. We're going to find them all, and we're going to protect them until they can testify. That's That's dozens of people. Then we'd better get started. She ended the call and looked out the window at Millstone waking up. The city looked peaceful from here, morning light glinting off glass and steel. But underneath that peaceful facade, a war was raging. A war between those who wanted justice and those who profited from its absence. Murphy's death had changed the game. This wasn't just about corruption anymore. This was about murder. And if they were willing to kill one of their own to protect their secrets, what would they do to her? The question hung in the air of the small safe house as Lena dressed for what she knew would be a pivotal day. Murphy's death had accelerated everything. There would be no more careful maneuvering, no more time for strategic patience. The war had turned hot and bodies were already falling. She arrived at the station at 7 a.m., 2 hours before her scheduled meeting with Councilman Hayes. The building was unusually quiet, conversations dying as she passed. Some officers nodded respectfully, others turned away. The division was visible now, a crack running through the department that threatened to become a chasm. Chen was already in her office along with officers Jameson, Patel, and Washington. They looked exhausted, worried, but determined. "Chief." Jameson started. "We've been up all night. After Murphy. People are scared. Some officers didn't come in today, called in sick." "How many?" 12 so far, all from the 3rd precinct. Reynolds precinct. They were circling the wagons preparing for something. "And Murphy?" she asked. "What are people saying?" Chen answered. "Official word is suicide, but nobody believes it. Murphy was talking yesterday apparently, telling people he was thinking about coming forward, that Mitchell had gone too far." "Who was he talking to?" "Officer Linda Zhao. She's terrified, Chief. Thinks she's next." Lena made a note. "Bring her in. Protective custody if necessary. Anyone who is thinking about talking needs protection now." Her desk phone rang. The mayor. "Lena, I've got 6 city council members in my office demanding your resignation." "Only 6, I'm disappointed. I thought I'd upset more than that by now." "This isn't funny. Murphy's death. Murder. Murphy's murder. We don't know that." "Patricia, we both know what this is. The question is whether you're going to stand behind me or cave to pressure." A long pause. The governor's office called. They're considering sending in state police to maintain order. That was unexpected, and potentially helpful. Good. Outside oversight might be exactly what we need. Or it might undermine your authority completely. Lena, I need to know, can you control this situation? Control it? No, nobody controls this. But I can expose it, root it out, and rebuild something better. That's what you hired me for. I hired you to reform the department, not start a civil war. The war was already here, Patricia. I just stopped pretending it wasn't. Another pause. You have 1 week. If things aren't stabilized by then, I'll have to make changes. Understood. Lena hung up and looked at her assembled team. We have 7 days to break this wide open. Chen, I want you to... The door burst open. Captain Frank Reynolds stood there, face red, fists clenched. Behind him were 6 other officers, all wearing their authority like armor. You, Reynolds pointed at Lena, are destroying this department. Captain Reynolds, you're in my office without invitation or appointment. Leave now, or I'll have you removed. You'll have me removed. Reynolds laughed ugly and harsh. You've been here a week. I've been protecting this city for 25 years. Protecting it or profiting from it? Reynolds stepped forward, and Chen moved to intercept him, but Lena held up a hand. Go ahead, Captain. Take a swing. Worked out so well for Mitchell. Reynolds stopped breathing hard. Murphy was a good cop. Whatever you threatened him with, whatever pressure you applied that made him eat his gun. I didn't kill Murphy, but someone did. Maybe someone afraid he'd reveal what he knew about the 3rd Precinct's operations. You're insane. Am I? Tell me, Captain, how does a patrol officer afford a beach house and a boat on his salary? How do suspects you arrest always seem to have their charges reduced or dropped? Why do the drugs from your precinct's evidence locker keep going missing? Reynolds' face went from red to purple. You can't prove anything. Yet. But I will. Now get out of my office before I have you arrested for insubordination. The union won't stand for this. Rosa Martinez appeared in the doorway behind Reynolds. The union stands with the chief. Now move frank before you embarrass yourself further. Reynolds looked between Rosa and Lena, calculating. Then he turned and stormed out, his officers following. But at the door he turned back. You think you're untouchable because of that video? Because you've got national attention. Murphy thought he was safe too. Is that a threat, Captain? It's a prediction. After they left, Rosa closed the door. He's not wrong about the union. I'm getting pushback. Some want a new vote for leadership. When? Tomorrow night. 24 hours to keep Rosa in power or lose union support entirely. The timeline kept compressing. Chief Washington spoke up. I've been going through Mitchell's old cases like you asked. I found something. Aaron's case there was another witness. Someone who saw Mitchell plant the evidence but never came forward. Lena's heart raced. Who? Thomas Chen, owner of Chen's Electronics, the store that was robbed. Chen, not related to Officer Danny Chen, despite the shared surname, had always maintained Aaron was the thief, had identified him in court. If he'd actually seen Mitchell plant evidence, he lied in court. Looks like it. And Mitchell made sure his store never got robbed again. Protection money, probably. This was it. A witness who could prove Aaron's innocence and Mitchell's corruption. Find him, now. Already did, Chief. He's in the interview room. Came in voluntarily this morning, said he heard about Murphy and doesn't want to be next. Lena practically ran to the interview room. Thomas Chen was there, a middle-aged man with nervous hands and sweat on his forehead despite the cool morning. Mr. Chen, I'm Chief Carter. I know who you are. You're Aaron's sister. His voice was barely above a whisper. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I wanted to tell the truth, but Mitchell said he'd burn down my store, hurt my family. Tell me everything. For the next hour, Thomas Chen laid out the whole scheme. Mitchell would target young black men with minor records, plant evidence, arrest them for crimes they didn't commit. Business owners like Chen were forced to corroborate or face consequences. The protection money was just a bonus. The real profit came from the drug dealers who paid Mitchell to eliminate their competition. I have records, Chen said, pulling out a flash drive. Every payment, every threat. I recorded some conversations when I got scared he'd kill me anyway. Lena took the drive like it was made of gold. Why come forward now? Murphy called me last night, said Mitchell was going down, that everyone connected to him would burn too. Told me to run or talk. Then I heard he was dead. Chen's hands shook. I don't want to die, but I can't run. My whole life is here. You won't die. I'll protect you. Like you protected Murphy. The words stung because they were fair. Murphy wasn't under my protection. You will be. Officer Washington, arrange a safe house for Mr. Chen and his family. 24-hour security. As Washington led Chen away, Councilman Hayes arrived for their meeting. He was everything Lena expected. Smooth, polished, confident in his power. He didn't wait for pleasantries. Chief Carter, you're tearing this city apart. I'm exposing what was already broken. Sometimes broken things still function. Sometimes fixing them destroys them completely. Speaking from experience, Councilman, tell me, how much did you receive from the Riverside Development Project, the one that somehow got approved despite failing every environmental review? Hayes's composure slipped. I don't know what you're implying. I'm not implying anything. I'm stating that you took $50,000 in bribes to push that project through. Mitchell provided the muscle to clear out residents who wouldn't sell. It's all documented. You're bluffing. Lena pulled out a file spreading photos across her desk. Hayes at dinner with known crime figures, bank records showing deposits, emails discussing arrangements. The FBI has copies of all of this. You have one chance, Councilman. Cooperate fully, testify about the corruption network, and maybe you avoid federal prison. Hayes aged 10 years in 10 seconds. They'll kill me. They might. Or you might help me stop them first. You don't understand. This isn't just a few bad cops. This goes all the way up. Judges, politicians, business leaders. Half the city's power structure is involved. Then half the city's power structure is going down. Hayes laughed bitterly. You really think you can win this, a week-old police chief, against decades of entrenched corruption? I don't have to win alone. Every person who's been stepped on, wronged, or silenced by this system, they're all going to help. The dam is already breaking, Councilman. The question is whether you're going to be swept away or help direct the flood. Before Hayes could answer, Lena's phone buzzed. Chen texting urgently. Chief, you need to see this. She turned on the news. Breaking Story 3. Officers from the 3rd Precinct had just been arrested by state police. The governor had acted without warning, sending in his own task force. The officers were being charged with drug trafficking based on evidence provided by an anonymous source. Hayes watched the news with growing panic. That's just the beginning, isn't it? Yes. So what's it going to be, Councilman? Are you with me or against me? I need time to think. You have 2 hours. Then I'm issuing a warrant for your arrest. Hayes left, and Chen entered immediately. Chief, those weren't our arrests. Someone else is moving against Reynolds' crew. The governor. Maybe. Or maybe someone trying to clean house before we can get to them. Either way, Reynolds is going nuclear. He's calling all his people back to the 3rd Precinct. They're barricading themselves in. He's making a stand. Looks like it. And Chief, some of our officers are joining him. The department's splitting right down the middle. This was the nightmare scenario, a complete breakdown of the police force. But maybe it was necessary. Maybe the only way to rebuild was to let it all fall apart first. Call in everyone we trust. We're going to surround the 3rd Precinct. Chief, that's what needs to happen. Reynolds and his people are criminals. We're going to treat them as such. The next hours were controlled chaos. Lena established a command post 2 blocks from the 3rd Precinct, watching as officers chose sides in real time. Some walked out of the building, throwing down their badges, refusing to be part of either faction. Others arrived to join Reynolds, creating an armed camp in the middle of the city. The media descended like vultures, sensing the story of the decade. A police department at war with itself, corruption, exposed a chief who'd been in office less than a week, trying to hold it all together. Rosa arrived with a contingent of union representatives. Lena, this is insane. We need to negotiate. There's nothing to negotiate. Reynolds and his people are criminals. They surrender or they're arrested. You don't have the manpower. I have the state police. The governor's backing me now. It was true. After the morning's arrests, the governor had called personally, offering full support. He saw the political opportunity cleaning up corruption, being the law and order leader. Lena didn't care about his motivations as long as she got the resources. As afternoon wore on, the standoff intensified. Reynolds had about 30 officers with him, all armed, all desperate. They'd blocked the precinct's entrances, disabled security cameras, and were destroying evidence based on the smoke coming from the building. Then Judge Morrison arrived at the command post, looking haggard but determined. I'm ready to talk, he said simply. All of it. Every case, every bribe, every cover-up. Lena had him immediately taken to a secure location for a full deposition. His testimony would be crucial, but she needed him alive to give it. At 4 p.m., Thomas Brennan, Mitchell's lawyer, appeared. My client wants to make a deal. Mitchell has nothing I want. He has names, dates, account numbers. He knows where all the bodies are buried, literally in some cases. That gave Lena pause. What does he want? Witness protection, reduced charges. He testifies against everyone else he walks with time served. He assaulted a police chief on camera. He assaulted a woman he didn't know was a police chief. Heat of the moment. With the right jury, we might even get acquittal. Brennan was probably right. Mitchell was scum, but he was smart scum, and his information could break everything wide open. I'll consider it. But he gives me something first, a show of good faith. What do you want? Who killed Murphy? Brennan's smile was cold. He'll tell you that, and more, but only after the deal is signed. As Brennan left, Chen approached with Officer Zhao, the one Murphy had been talking to before his death. She was visibly terrified, constantly looking over her shoulder. Tell the chief what you told me, Chen encouraged her. Zhao's voice shook. Murphy called me last night. Said he'd been following you on Mitchell's orders. But when he reported back, Mitchell went crazy. Said Murphy had screwed up, been spotted. Murphy was scared, said Mitchell was acting like someone was pulling his strings. Someone powerful who wanted you eliminated. Did he say who? No. But he said something weird. Said the person who really ran things wasn't even a cop. Said it was someone respectable. Someone nobody would suspect. Another layer to the conspiracy. Lena was starting to understand the shape of it. Cops like Mitchell, as the muscle politicians like Hayes, as the facilitators, but someone else at the top coordinating it all. Her phone rang. Reynolds calling from inside the 3rd precinct. Last chance, Chief. Call off your dogs and let us walk away. Nobody else has to die. Nobody had to die in the first place, Captain. Murphy didn't have to die. Murphy was weak. He would have talked. It was as close to a confession as she was going to get. So, you killed him. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. Captain Reynolds, you and your officers are under arrest for corruption, drug trafficking, and conspiracy to commit murder. Come out with your hands visible. You know that's not going to happen. Then we're coming in. You do that, and this becomes a bloodbath. You want dead cops on your conscience? I want justice, however it comes. She hung up and turned to the state police commander who'd arrived an hour earlier. We go in at sunset. Full tactical gear. Arrest everyone, sorted out later. Chief Carter, that's 30 armed officers. Some of them might resist. Then they'll face the consequences. This ends tonight. As the sun began to set over Millstone, painting the sky red, Lena stood at her command post and watched the pieces move into place. State police SWAT units surrounding the precinct. Media helicopters circling overhead. Citizens gathering behind police lines, some supporting Reynolds, others supporting her most, just wanting to see history unfold. Chen stood beside her. Chief, whatever happens, I want you to know you've changed everything. Even if we lose, even if Reynolds wins tonight, you've exposed them. They can't hide anymore. We're not losing Chen. Not after everything we've sacrificed to get here. But even as she said it, Lena knew the cost would be high. The city would be scarred by this. The police department might never fully recover, and people good and bad would be destroyed by what came next. Her phone buzzed. Aaron texting. Watching the news. Be careful, sis. Dad would be proud. Their father, who'd been a cop himself, who'd died when they were young, who'd always talked about justice and duty, and doing what's right, even when it's hard. He would have understood what she was doing. He might have even understood the price. 5 minutes until breach, the SWAT commander announced. Lena picked up the megaphone one more time. Captain Reynolds, this is your final warning. Exit the building with your hands visible. This doesn't have to end in violence. Reynolds' response came not through words, but actions. The precinct's lights went out, plunging the building into darkness. Then muzzle flashes from the windows, warning shots firing into the air, but the message was clear. Breach, Lena ordered. The SWAT teams moved in synchronized precision, approaching from multiple angles. Flashbang grenades shattered the evening quiet. Smoke billowed from the building. Then the real shooting started. Not warning shots this time. Reynolds' people were firing at the SWAT team's desperation, making them dangerous. The SWAT teams returned fire-controlled bursts, advancing steadily. Lena watched through binoculars, her heart pounding. This was it, the violent collapse of the old order. Necessary, but terrible. Officer down, came through the radio. Then again. Officer down. But the SWAT teams kept advancing room by room, floor by floor. The shooting became sporadic, then stopped. After 20 minutes that felt like hours, the commander's voice came through, building secure, multiple suspects in custody. Casualties: 3 suspects dead, 8 wounded. 2 of our officers wounded, none fatal. 3 dead cops. Even if they were dirty, they were still officers who'd died in a police action. The media would have a field day. The city would mourn or celebrate, depending on their perspective. Reynolds. In custody. He surrendered when we reached his office, was burning files when we breached. Evidence destroyed, but they had enough. Morrison's testimony. Chen's recordings, the state police investigation. The network was broken. As Lena walked toward the Concord precinct, she saw Mitchell being brought out in handcuffs from a transport van. They'd brought him to see his empire fall. His eyes met hers, and for a moment she saw not hatred, but resignation. He knew it was over, but then he smiled, cold and knowing. You think you won? You have no idea what you've started. The person who really runs this city, they're going to destroy you. Let them try. They won't have to try hard. You've given them everything they need. A police department in chaos, public trust, destroyed the city vulnerable. They'll step in as the savior, rebuild things their way, and you'll be remembered as the chief who destroyed the force. Before Lena could respond, Mitchell was pulled away, but his words lingered. Who was the shadow figure behind it all? Who benefited from both the corruption and its exposure? Her phone rang. The mayor. Lena, what have you done? What needed to be done? 3 officers are dead. The 3rd precinct is a war zone. The governor's declaring martial law. Good. Let him. Outside oversight is what this city needs. You don't understand. The governor's appointing an emergency administrator for the police department. You're being relieved of command. The words hit like a physical blow. You're firing me. I'm saving you. Take the out, Lena. You've exposed the corruption. Let someone else clean it up. Someone else, like who? Robert Thornton. He's a respected businessman, former federal prosecutor. The governor trusts him to restore order. Robert Thornton. The name tickled something in Lena's memory. She'd seen it somewhere in her investigation, but where? I need 24 hours to transition. You have until morning. I'm sorry, Lena. You're a hero, but heroes don't always get to finish the job. The mayor hung up, and Lena stood in the aftermath of her war, surrounded by arrested cops and broken institutions, wondering if she'd just played into someone else's plan all along. Chen approached, face grim. Chief, we've got a problem. The files Reynolds was burning, they weren't evidence of his crimes. They were evidence against someone else, someone he was investigating on his own. Who? Robert Thornton. Reynolds had a whole file on him. Financial crimes, money laundering, connections to organized crime. The pieces clicked into place with horrible clarity. Thornton, the respectable businessman who nobody would suspect. The one who'd benefit from chaos in the police department. The shadow figure behind it all. And tomorrow, he'd be in charge of the entire force. The revelation about Thornton changed everything. Lena stood in the smoking ruins of the 3rd precinct, her mind racing through possibilities while Chen waited for her response. She had less than 12 hours before Thornton took control, and the fragments of Reynolds's burned files might be the only evidence that could stop him. Chen, get everyone we trust. We're going to reconstruct those files tonight, every piece we can salvage. Chief, most of it's ash. And even if we find something who's going to listen, you're being removed in the morning. Then we have until morning to expose the real puppet master. She pulled out her phone and called the one person who might be able to help. Rosa, I need the union's emergency legal fund. For what? To hire a forensic document specialist. Tonight. Best money can buy. Lena, the union's in chaos. Half want to support you, half think you've destroyed us. I barely survived the no confidence vote. This is bigger than department politics, Rosa. Robert Thornton is dirty. He's been behind everything, using Mitchell and Reynolds as his enforcers while staying clean himself. Silence on the other end. Then, Thornton's contributed to every police charity for 20 years. He's untouchable. That's how he stayed hidden. The generous businessman, the former prosecutor, the pillar of the community. But Reynolds knew something, and he died trying to burn the evidence. Reynolds isn't dead. Not yet. But how long do you think he'll last in custody when Thornton takes over tomorrow? Rosa understood immediately. I'll get you the specialist. But Lena, this is suicide. Thornton has connections you can't imagine. As Rosa worked on finding help, Lena and her team began the painstaking process of collecting burned documents. The precinct's third floor, where Reynolds had his office, was a maze of smoke damage and destroyed evidence. But not everything burns completely, and desperation made them thorough. Officer Patel found the first significant piece, a partially intact bank statement showing large deposits to an account in Reynolds' name. But the source was what mattered. Thornton Industries. Payment for services rendered, though what services remained unclear. Washington discovered fragments of photographs in a metal filing cabinet that had protected them from the worst of the fire. The images were damaged but recognizable. Thornton, meeting with known crime figures, the same ones who'd been supposedly fighting Reynolds's anti-drug operations. He was playing both sides, Washington said, funding the criminals and the cops supposed to stop them. More than that, Lena realized, he was using the police to eliminate his competition. Mitchell and Reynolds weren't just dirty cops, they were Thornton's private army. Her phone rang. Judge Morrison calling from protective custody. Chief Carter, I heard about your removal. I want to help. Why? Because Thornton's the reason I stayed quiet all these years. He had leverage on every judge in the city. Our cases, our finances, our families, he knew everything. If he takes over the police department, he'll own the entire justice system. What leverage did he have on you? Morrison's voice was barely a whisper. My son. 15 years ago he got into trouble. Drug possession. Thornton made it disappear, but he kept the evidence. Said he'd release it if I didn't play ball. Your son's crime from 15 years ago. That's what kept you silent while innocent people went to prison. You don't understand. It wasn't just possession. There was an accident. Someone died. My son was high. Thornton covered it up, but if it came out... Morrison's voice broke. I'm not proud of what I've done. But I can testify about Thornton's network, how he controlled us. Can you prove it? I recorded some conversations over the years, insurance I called it, hidden in a safety deposit box even Thornton doesn't know about. This was it, the evidence they needed. But Morrison was 2 hours away in protective custody, and they had until morning. Send someone you trust to get those recordings. We'll need them tonight. As Morrison worked on his end, the forensic specialist Rosa had hired arrived. Dr. Sarah Kim, an expert in document reconstruction who'd worked FBI cases. She took one look at the burned files and shook her head. This is going to take weeks to properly reconstruct. We have 6 hours, Lena said. Impossible. Then do the impossible. Focus on anything mentioning Thornton financial transactions or connections to organized crime. Dr. Kim sighed, but got to work using specialized chemicals and digital enhancement to reveal text on burned pages. Within an hour, she'd recovered enough to paint a damning picture. Thornton had been running a criminal empire for 2 decades, using the police department as his enforcement arm, while maintaining his reputation as a legitimate businessman. The evidence showed he'd orchestrated everything: which dealers operated, where which cops got paid, which judges ruled on which cases. He'd even arranged for certain criminals to be arrested when they became problems, using Mitchell and Reynolds to clean house. This is incredible, Dr. Kim said. He basically privatized law enforcement without anyone knowing. Chen's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Stop now or share Murphy's fate. Then Lena's phone. Same message. Then Washington's, Patel's, even Dr. Kim's. He knows what we're doing, Chen said. Good, Lena replied. Let him panic. Panicked people make mistakes. But Thornton wasn't panicking. Within minutes, state police arrived at the precinct. Chief Carter, the lead officer said, looking uncomfortable. We have orders to secure this crime scene. Everyone needs to leave. On whose authority? The governor's. Says you're contaminating evidence in an ongoing investigation. Thornton had reached the governor. Of course he had. But Lena had expected this. We're leaving, she announced. Then quietly to her team. We have enough. Everyone meet at the backup location. The backup location was a warehouse Lena had rented weeks ago before she'd even taken the job. She'd known this day might come when official channels would be closed to her. The warehouse contained copies of everything 5 years of investigation backed up and secured. As they regrouped, Morrison's recordings arrived via courier. Lena played them, hearing Thornton's voice clearly outlining his plans, threatening judges, discussing payments to cops. It was damning, but would it be enough? We need to go public, Chen said. Press conference, release everything. The media won't run it without verification, Washington argued, and Thornton owns half the local outlets. Then we go national, Lena decided, and we don't wait for morning. She called the CNN reporter who'd been covering the story since the courthouse assault. Within an hour, a full crew was at the warehouse ready to broadcast live. But as they prepared, Lena's phone rang. Aaron. Sis, there are men outside my apartment. They're just sitting in a car watching. Thornton's final play threatened her family. Call the police, Aaron. I did. They said unless the men do something, there's nothing they can do. Of course. Thornton probably had people in Aaron's local department too. Get out. Go to a hotel. I'll send people to protect you. Lena, maybe you should stop. This is getting too dangerous. It's been dangerous from the start, but we're close, Aaron. We're going to prove your innocence and take down the whole network. I don't care about my innocence anymore. I just want you safe. I know, but I care. And after tonight, we'll both be safe. She hung up and faced the cameras. This was it, her last shot at justice before Thornton took control. Good evening, she began, as the red light indicated they were live. I'm Lena Carter, Chief of Police in Millstone, for exactly 1 more hour. In that time, I need to tell you about the man who's about to take my place, and why he's the most dangerous criminal in our city's history. She laid out everything, the evidence, the recordings, the network of corruption that Thornton had built and controlled. She named names, showed documents, played Morrison's recordings. It was thorough, devastating, and undeniable. The phones in the warehouse started ringing immediately. Other media outlets wanting confirmation. Citizens demanding action. Officers offering more evidence. But the most important call came from the FBI. Chief Carter, this is Special Agent Diana Foster. We've been building a case against Thornton for 3 years. Your evidence is exactly what we needed. We're moving to arrest him now. Now, but he's supposed to take over in the morning. He won't make it to morning. Neither will his network. We're conducting simultaneous raids across 3 states. Relief flooded through Lena. They'd done it. But Foster wasn't finished. Chief Carter, we need you to do something. Thornton's at his estate, probably destroying evidence. We need someone to keep him occupied while we get warrants. Can you do that? He just threatened my brother. You want me to walk into his house? We'll have agents nearby, and we need him to incriminate himself on tape if possible. It was dangerous, potentially fatal. But it was also the chance to face the man who'd orchestrated so much misery. I'll do it. The drive to Thornton's estate took 30 minutes through Millstone's empty streets. It was past midnight now, the city quiet except for sirens in the distance, FBI raids already beginning. The estate was exactly what she'd expected, massive, gated, a monument to ill-gotten wealth. But the gates were open like he was expecting her. She drove through past manicured gardens and fountains to the circular drive in front of the mansion. Thornton was standing in the doorway, looking nothing like a cornered criminal. He looked calm, amused even. Chief Carter, Or should I say, former Chief Carter. Come in. We have much to discuss. Lena checked her phone one last time, recording app running location shared with the FBI. Then she followed him inside. The interior was all marble and crystal art that belonged in museum's furniture that cost more than most people's houses. Thornton led her to a study lined with books and photos of him with powerful people, governors, senators, even a president. Drink, he offered. I don't drink with criminals. He laughed. Criminal, I'm a businessman, a philanthropist, a pillar of this community. You're a parasite who's been feeding on this city for 20 years. I've been managing this city for 20 years. He corrected. Do you know what Millstone was like before I took control? Chaos? Real criminals running wild. The police ineffective. The courts overwhelmed. I brought order. You brought corruption. I brought structure. Yes, some criminals operated, but only the ones I allowed. Yes, some cops got paid, but they maintained peace. The system worked. For you, not for people like my brother. Ah, yes, Aaron. Collateral damage, I'm afraid. Mitchell got overzealous. Your brother was supposed to be a simple arrest to boost numbers, but Mitchell decided to make an example of him. I do apologize for that. The casual admission of destroying her brother's life made Lena's hands clench. But she kept recording. And Murphy? Was he collateral damage too? Thornton's eyes sharpened. Murphy was weak. He would have destroyed everything we'd built over hurt feelings and misguided conscience. So you had him killed. I had a problem solved, just like I'm about to solve you. He pulled out a gun, an antique revolver that probably cost a fortune, but his hand was steady, experienced. You're recording this, of course. Probably transmitting to your FBI friends. But it won't matter. Self-defense. A disgraced police chief broke into my home, threatened me. I feared for my life. The FBI is already moving. Your people are being arrested as we speak. Some of them, perhaps. But not all. And not me. I have resources you can't imagine, connections at levels you can't reach. I'll be free by morning and you'll be dead. Maybe. But the evidence is out there now. The whole city knows what you are. The city knows what I allow them to know. Tomorrow, they'll know you as a rogue cop who destroyed the police force and tried to frame an innocent businessman. Your evidence will disappear, your witnesses will recant or vanish, and order will be restored. He was probably right. Even with the FBI raids, Thornton had enough money and influence to potentially escape justice. Unless... You're forgetting something, Lena said. What's that? Reynolds is still alive. And he's talking. Thornton's composure cracked slightly. Reynolds is loyal. He won't betray me. Reynolds is scared. He knows you'll have him killed in prison, so he's trading everything he knows for protective custody. Financial records recorded conversations, even video of you ordering hits. It was a lie, mostly. Reynolds was in custody but hadn't talked yet. But Thornton didn't know that. You're lying. I check with your sources. Oh wait, they're all being arrested. Thornton's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and his face went pale. The FBI was at his gates. You set me up. You set yourself up 20 years ago when you decided to turn law enforcement into your personal business. He raised the gun, aimed at her head. Then we'll end this together. The window behind him exploded. FBI sniper. Thornton spun the gun, flying from his hand. He fell, but wasn't hit. It was a warning shot. Robert Thornton. Agent Foster's voice boomed through a megaphone. You're under arrest for murder, racketeering, corruption, and conspiracy. Come out with your hands visible. Thornton looked at Lena from where he lay on the floor. You think you've won? You've destroyed the only thing keeping this city from tearing itself apart. Without my structure, without the arrangements I maintained, Millstone will descend into chaos. Maybe. But it'll be honest chaos, not your manufactured order. The FBI agents entered, weapons drawn, moving with practiced efficiency. They cuffed Thornton, read him his rights, began searching his study. One agent found a safe behind a painting inside, were drives containing what would turn out to be records of every crime, every payment, every murder Thornton had ordered. He'd kept it all insurance and leverage that now became evidence. As they led him away, Thornton turned back to Lena one last time. "You have no idea what you've done. The people I work for, the ones above even me, they won't let this stand. Let them come." But after he was gone, his words lingered. Who was above Thornton? How deep did this go? Agent Foster approached. "Outstanding work, Chief Carter. We couldn't have done this without you. I'm not chief anymore, as of—" She checked her watch, 2 hours ago. "About that. The governor's reconsidering. With Thornton exposed, he needs someone clean to rebuild the department. You interested?" Lena looked around the opulent study at the photos of Thornton with powerful people at the evidence of decades of corruption. The work wasn't done. It might never be truly done. But she'd started something that couldn't be stopped now. "Yes, but on my terms. Complete autonomy, no political interference, and resources to rebuild from the ground up." Foster smiled. "I think that can be arranged." Lena's phone rang. "Aaron. Sis, the men outside are gone, and I just saw the news. You did it. You actually did it." "We did it, Aaron. Your case is going to be overturned. Full exoneration." For the first time in 5 years, she heard her brother cry. Dawn was breaking as Lena left Thornton's estate. The FBI was still processing the scene, but she had work to do. The department was in shambles, half the force was under investigation or arrest, and the city needed law enforcement. She arrived at the station to find something unexpected: officers waiting for her. Not just the ones who'd supported her, but new faces. Officers who'd been silent, who'd been afraid, who'd been waiting for someone to stand up to the corruption. "Chief," one of them said, an older sergeant she'd never spoken to. "We heard you might be staying on. We want to help rebuild, the right way this time." More arrived as the morning progressed. By noon, she had enough volunteers to maintain basic services. Not a full force, but a start. The mayor arrived looking exhausted and somewhat ashamed. "Lena, I owe you an apology. You owe the city an apology. You knew something was wrong and did nothing. You're right, I was afraid. Thornton had leverage on everyone." She paused. "But you didn't let fear stop you. The job's yours if you want it. Permanently. Full support from my office. And when the next Thornton shows up, when someone else tries to corrupt the system, then I hope we have someone like you to stop them." It wasn't a perfect answer, but it was honest. Chen appeared with a stack of newspapers. Every major outlet was running the story. "Millstone corruption ring exposed. Hero chief brings down criminal empire. The cop who kicked back. You're famous," he said. "We all are. Everyone who stood up, who fought back, who refused to be corrupted. This wasn't a one-person operation." "No, but you started it. That kick from Mitchell, it began everything." Lena touched her still bruised ribs. "Sometimes you have to take a hit to land a bigger blow." Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number, but this time not threatening. It was a photo of a young man, Marcus Washington, the kid whose arm Mitchell had broken. He was holding a newspaper with the headline about Mitchell's arrest, and he was smiling. The message read, "Thank you for not forgetting us." She hadn't forgotten any of them. Every victim, every family destroyed, every life derailed by corruption. They were why she'd come back to Millstone, why she'd put herself in Mitchell's path, why she'd risked everything to expose Thornton. Rosa arrived with the union leadership. The vote was unanimous. Full support for your reforms. We're ready to rebuild. It won't be easy. We need new policies, new training, new oversight, and we need to regain public trust. Then we'd better get started. As the day progressed, the scope of the FBI operation became clear. 300 arrests across multiple states. Corrupt cops, judges, politicians, business leaders. Thornton's network was vast, but it was finished. Decades of careful construction undone in a single night. Judge Morrison, in protective custody, gave a full confession and provided evidence that would ensure convictions. Thomas Chen, the store owner, testified about the protection racket. Even Reynolds, facing life in prison, began cooperating in exchange for a reduced sentence. But the most satisfying moment came that evening. Aaron arrived in Millstone free not just legally, but emotionally. The weight he'd carried for 5 years was gone. They stood in Lena's office, really hers now, looking out at the city. "Was it worth it?" he asked. "Everything you sacrificed, everything you risked." Lena thought about Murphy dead because he'd considered doing the right thing, about the 3 officers killed in the precinct raid, corrupt though they were, about the months ahead of rebuilding, investigating, healing. "Ask me in a year," she said, "when we see if real change sticks or if another Thornton rises up. You think someone else will try? Someone always does. Power corrupts, and there's always someone willing to be corrupted. But now people know it can be fought. They know corruption isn't inevitable." Aaron hugged her, careful of her still healing ribs. "Dad would be proud." "I hope so." As night fell over Millstone, Lena stood in her office, surrounded by the files of her investigation. 5 years of work had culminated in 48 hours of chaos that had changed everything. The old order was destroyed, the new one yet to be built. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Officers to hire, policies to implement, trust to rebuild. The FBI investigation would continue for months, maybe years. Trials would drag on, appeals would be filed, and some guilty parties would probably escape justice. But tonight, for just this moment, she'd won. David had beaten Goliath if David had been a black female police chief and Goliath had been an entire corrupt system. Her phone rang one last time. A number she recognized, Mitchell calling from jail. "What do you want, Mitchell?" "To tell you something. You think you won, but you just traded one master for another. The FBI, the governor, the media, they'll all want to control you now. You'll see." "Maybe. But at least I'll be able to look at myself in the mirror." "That's what I used to think too. 20 years ago when I was like you. Idealistic. Determined to make a difference. Then I learned how the world really works." "No, Mitchell. You learned how to profit from how the world works. There's a difference." "Is there?" "Ask me again in 20 years, Chief, if you last that long." He hung up, and Lena deleted his number. She wouldn't be taking his calls again. The weeks that followed Thornton's arrest brought a different kind of battle to Millstone. Lena discovered that tearing down corruption was one thing, but building something better from the rubble was another challenge entirely. The city watched her every move, some with hope, others with skepticism, and a few with barely concealed hostility. It was a Thursday morning, 6 weeks after the raids, when the first real test of the new order arrived. Lena was reviewing applications for new officers when Chen burst into her office, face flushed with urgency. "Chief, we have a situation. There's been a shooting in Riverside, the neighborhood Thornton's people used to control. 3 dead, including a kid." Lena was already moving, grabbing her jacket. "Gang retaliation." "Looks like it. Without Thornton's structure keeping them in check, the smaller crews are fighting for territory." This was exactly what Thornton had warned about, the chaos that would follow his removal. As they drove to the scene, Lena could see the doubt in Chen's eyes, the unspoken question of whether they'd made things worse by destroying the old system. The crime scene was devastating. A drive-by shooting at a corner store, civilians caught in crossfire. The child couldn't have been more than 10, still clutching a bag of chips he'd been buying when the bullets started flying. Officer Patel was already there, trying to manage a growing crowd of angry residents. "Chief, they're saying this is our fault. That at least under Thornton's system there were rules. There were rules that benefited criminals," Lena said firmly, though the child's body made the words feel hollow. She turned to address the crowd that had gathered, recognizing faces from the community meetings she'd been holding. "I know you're angry," she began, having to raise her voice over the shouting. "You have every right to be, But the answer isn't to romanticize the past. Yes, Thornton's system had order, but it was order built on fear and exploitation. We're building something better. Better? An elderly man pushed forward, tears streaming down his face. That's my grandson under that sheet. How is this better? Lena had no easy answer. The man was right to be angry. The transition period was always going to be dangerous, but knowing that didn't make it easier to accept. What's your name, sir? Jerome Williams. And that boy was Marcus. Marcus Williams. The name hit Lena like a physical blow. Marcus Williams. Not the same Marcus Washington whose arm Mitchell had broken, but another Marcus, another victim, another life cut short by violence the system had failed to prevent. Mr. Williams, I promise you we'll find who did this. And more importantly, we're going to make sure it doesn't happen again. Promises, Jerome spat. That's all we ever get. Promises. Before Lena could respond, her phone rang. Agent Foster from the FBI. Chief Carter, we have a problem. Thornton's lawyer is filing motions. He's claiming entrapment, says you orchestrated everything to frame him. And worse, he has a witness. What witness? Someone named Sandra Mitchell. Says she's Malik Mitchell's ex-wife. Claims she has evidence you planned the courthouse confrontation. Lena stepped away from the crowd, her mind racing. Sandra Mitchell, she'd never come up in the investigation. If she existed, if she had real evidence, it could undermine everything. I need to see this supposed evidence. Can you come to the federal building? The prosecutor wants to go over everything before Thornton's bail hearing tomorrow. A bail hearing? After everything, Thornton might walk free while awaiting trial. The system protecting its own even now. I'll be there in an hour. She turned back to the crime scene where her officers were processing evidence. Chen approached with an update. Witnesses say it was the East Side crew trying to claim territory that used to belong to Thornton's operation. The South Side Kings shot back. The civilians were just in the wrong place. Round them up, all of them. Chief, we don't have the manpower. Half the force is still suspended pending investigation, and the new recruits aren't ready. He was right. They were operating with a skeleton crew trying to police a city that was testing every boundary. Then we get creative. Call in state police for support. Reach out to community leaders. We need to stop this before it becomes a war. As she prepared to leave for the federal building, Jerome Williams grabbed her arm. You want to make this right? Then don't just arrest them. Fix the problem. These kids are fighting over corners because that's all they have. Thornton kept them down, but at least he kept them alive. What do you suggest? Jobs, programs, hope. You can't arrest your way out of poverty, Chief. He was right, of course, but those were long-term solutions, and she needed to stop the bleeding now. The federal building was a fortress of glass and steel, a monument to institutional power. Inside, Lena found herself in a conference room with federal prosecutor Diana Chang and Agent Foster. They had boxes of evidence, but their faces were grim. Show me what Sandra Mitchell has, Lena said. Chang pulled out a tablet showing a video. It was grainy, clearly taken from a distance, but it showed Lena outside the courthouse the morning of the assault an hour before it happened. She appeared to be on the phone, and Sandra Mitchell's voice could be heard on the recording. She's saying you called her, told her to make sure Malik would be at the courthouse, that you knew he'd react violently if provoked. Lena studied the video. It was her definitely, but she'd been calling Chen that morning confirming he'd be at the courthouse for backup if needed. This is edited. I never spoke to Sandra Mitchell. I didn't even know she existed. Can you prove that? Phone records will show I called Officer Chen at that time. Thornton's team will argue you used a burner phone. They're also claiming you planted evidence at his estate. That's absurd. Is it? You did enter his home alone before FBI arrived. You had opportunity. Lena felt the walls closing in. Thornton was playing the system masterfully, using its own rules against her. What does the FBI think? Foster spoke carefully. We believe in the case, but Thornton has resources. He's hired the best defense team in the country. They're going to put you on trial as much as him. Then let them. I have nothing to hide. Chang and Foster exchanged glances. Chief Carter, there's something else. Internal Affairs from the State Police has opened an investigation into the precinct raid. The 3 officers who died, their families are suing, claiming excessive force. They were shooting at SWAT officers. Their lawyers argue they were defending themselves against what they believed was an illegal assault, that you never had proper authority to order the raid. It kept getting worse. Every victory was being reframed as overreach, every necessary action painted as abuse of power. What do you need from me? Everything, Chang said. Every document, every recording, every piece of evidence from your 5-year investigation, and you'll need to testify extensively. Fine, but I need something in return. FBI support in Millstone. We're about to have a gang war, and I don't have the resources to stop it. Foster nodded. We can assign a task force, but Chief, if Thornton walks on bail tomorrow, your problems will multiply. His people are still out there waiting. The meeting continued for 3 more hours, going over every detail of the case. By the time Lena left, the sun was setting, and she had 17 missed calls from the station. Chen's voice was tense when she finally reached him. Chief, it started. 2 more shootings. The East Side crew hit a South Side stash house. South Side retaliated against an East Side member's family. 5 more dead. Where are the state police? Delayed. Some bureaucratic issue with jurisdiction. Of course, someone was pulling strings, making sure Lena failed. She wondered if it was Thornton's remaining allies, or just the system's natural resistance to change. Call an emergency meeting. Every gang leader, every crew chief. Tonight. Neutral ground. Chief, that's they won't come, and if they do, it could be a massacre. Then we make sure it isn't. Full tactical positioning. Snipers on neighboring buildings. But we need to talk to them before this spirals completely out of control. Where? St. Mary's Church. Father Miguel's been trying to broker peace for years. They respect him even if they don't respect us. The church was in the heart of disputed territory, a Gothic structure that had survived riots, floods, and decades of urban decay. Father Miguel, a man who'd buried too many young men, agreed immediately to host the meeting. They'll come, he assured Lena. They're tired of dying too. By midnight, they had assembled 5 gang leaders each with 2 lieutenants, all armed, despite the supposed weapon check at the door. Lena entered with only Chen, a calculated risk to show she wasn't afraid. The room was thick with tension and barely controlled violence. These were young men who'd grown up in Thornton's shadow, learned his lessons about power and control. You got some balls coming here, said Dante King, leader of the Southside Kings, barely 25, but with eyes that had seen too much. After you destroyed the only system that worked. Thornton's system worked for Thornton, Lena replied. You were just his employees fighting each other to make him rich. At least we were alive, countered Rico Martinez from the East Side crew. Now it's open season. It doesn't have to be. You're fighting over territory that doesn't matter, corners that won't exist in 5 years when this neighborhood gets developed. You're killing each other for nothing. Then what do you suggest, Chief? Dante's voice dripped sarcasm. We all go legitimate, get jobs at McDonald's. I suggest you stop shooting children. Lena let the words hang in the air. Marcus Williams was 10 years old. He wanted to be a doctor. Now he's dead because you couldn't settle your beef without bullets. That wasn't supposed to happen, Rico said, and for a moment his tough facade cracked. The kid, nobody wanted that. But it did happen. And it'll keep happening unless we change things. Change how? This from a leader she didn't recognize, newer, hungrier. You took down Thornton, but another one will rise. It's how the game works. Not if we change the game itself. Lena pulled out a map of Millstone, spread it on the table between them. Here's what I propose. Amnesty for past crimes if you cooperate going forward. Job training programs, legitimate business opportunities. The city's about to approve a massive reconstruction project. Thousands of jobs. I can guarantee positions for your people if you stop the violence." "You want us to snitch," Dante said flatly. "I want you to survive. Look around. How many of your friends from 5 years ago are still alive? How many will be alive 5 years from now if this continues?" The room was quiet. Father Miguel stepped forward. "I've buried 43 young men from this neighborhood in the past 2 years," he said quietly. "I'm tired of eulogies." "Aren't you?" "Pretty words," Rico said. "But what about the cops? They'll still harass us, still treat us like criminals." "Not my cops," Lena said firmly. "The new department has new rules, community policing, not occupation. But I need something from you first. 24 hours of peace, no shootings, no retaliation. Give me 1 day to show you things can be different." The leaders looked at each other, communicating in glances and subtle gestures. Finally, Dante spoke. 24 hours. But if one of my people gets shot by cops or rivals, all bets are off." "Same," Rico agreed. Others nodded. It was fragile, probably temporary, but it was a start. As the gang leaders filed out, Father Miguel pulled Lena aside. "You know this won't last. Too much bad blood." "I know, but 24 hours gives me time to work on a real solution." "Which is?" "Removing the reason for fighting. If Thornton's money is gone, if there's no profit in controlling territory, maybe they'll stop killing each other over it." Her phone buzzed. "Aaron texting, watching the news. They're saying you met with gang leaders. The comments are brutal." She could imagine. The new police chief negotiating with criminals instead of arresting them. It would play badly in the media, give Thornton's lawyers more ammunition. But as she left the church, she noticed something. Kids who'd been hiding in doorways were coming out. Mothers who'd been afraid to leave their homes were on their stoops. The word was spreading 24 hours of peace. Back at the station, she found unexpected support. Officers she didn't know well approached her. "That took guts, Chief," one said, "meeting with them like that." "My cousin lives in Riverside," another added. "She's been afraid to let her kids play outside. Maybe now." But not everyone was supportive. A group of older officers, ones who'd survived the purge by staying neutral, were clearly unhappy. "You're legitimizing criminals," one said bluntly. "I'm trying to save lives." "By negotiating with thugs, what's next making them deputies?" Before Lena could respond, her phone rang. The mayor. "Lena, what are you doing? I've got reporters calling saying you're making deals with gang members." "I'm preventing a war, Patricia." "It looks like you're weak, like you can't control the city without criminal cooperation." "Maybe because I can't. We have half a police force and a power vacuum that's being filled with blood. Unless you want to declare martial law, I need to try unconventional methods. Thornton's lawyers are going to use this against you. They're already painting you as a rogue cop who's lost control. Let them. Tomorrow at his bail hearing, I'll show exactly who Thornton is and what he's done." "You'd better, because if he walks free and you've been caught making deals with gangs, the city council will demand your resignation." After the mayor hung up, Lena sat in her office exhausted, but unable to sleep. The 24-hour clock had started. In that time, she needed to prevent gang violence, prepare for Thornton's bail hearing, manage a depleted police force, and somehow prove that her methods were working. Chen knocked and entered with coffee and a stack of files. "Thought you might need these. Everything on Thornton we can use tomorrow." "Thanks. How's the peace holding?" "So far, but there's been chatter. Some of Thornton's old lieutenants are trying to reorganize, offering the gangs money to reject your deal." "How much money?" "Enough to matter. They're saying once Thornton's free, things go back to how they were." "He won't get free. Chief, his lawyers are good, really good. They're already spinning a narrative that you're a vigilante who fabricated evidence." Lena looked at the files, each one representing lives destroyed by Thornton's empire. "Then we need to make sure the truth is louder than their lies." She spent the night preparing, going over every piece of evidence, every testimony. By dawn, she was ready for battle, running on coffee and determination. The federal courthouse was surrounded by media when she arrived. Thornton's supporters, a mix of people he'd enriched, and those who genuinely believed he was being framed, held signs demanding justice. On the other side, victims of his corruption stood silent witness. Inside the courtroom, Thornton sat with his legal team looking confident and presidential. He'd gotten a haircut, wore a perfectly tailored suit, and had the bearing of a wrongly accused man. When he saw Lena, he smiled and nodded, as if they were old colleagues. The prosecutor, Diana Chang, was brilliant, but clearly overwhelmed by the defense team's resources. They had experts, character witnesses, and alternative explanations for every piece of evidence. When Lena took the stand, Thornton's lead attorney, Harrison Blake, approached like a shark sensing blood. "Chief Carter, isn't it true you came to Millstone specifically to target my client?" "I came to Millstone to serve as police chief." "But you had a personal vendetta. Your brother was arrested by Officer Mitchell, who you believed worked for Mr. Thornton." "My brother was framed by Officer Mitchell, who did work for Mr. Thornton." "According to you. But isn't it possible you've constructed this elaborate conspiracy to explain your brother's legitimate arrest?" "No." "You entered Mr. Thornton's home alone before FBI arrived. You had opportunity to plant evidence." "I entered at FBI request to keep him from destroying evidence." "So you say. But we only have your word for that, don't we?" The questioning continued for hours, Blake chipping away at her credibility, painting her as a vengeful sister who'd abused her power to frame an innocent businessman. But then Chang played Morrison's recordings, Thornton's voice clear and undeniable, discussing murders, bribes, and criminal operations. Blake was ready. "These recordings are suspicious. Judge Morrison, facing corruption charges himself, had every reason to fabricate evidence against my client to reduce his own sentence." "The recordings have been authenticated by FBI audio experts," Chang countered. "Experts can be wrong or bought." It went back and forth, truth against spin, evidence against doubt. The judge, an elderly woman named Patricia Hawkins, who'd been brought in from another district to avoid conflict of interest, listened carefully. Finally, she spoke. "I've heard enough. Mr. Thornton bail is set at $10 million with conditions. House arrest, ankle monitor, no contact with witnesses or former associates." Thornton's team erupted in protest, but he remained calm, already pulling out his phone to arrange payment. He'd be free within hours. As Lena left the courthouse, she felt defeated despite the high bail. Thornton would be on the street, able to coordinate with his remaining network. But her phone was buzzing with good news. Chen reporting. 24 hours of peace held chief. No shootings. The community's noticing. Small victories mattered too. She returned to find the station transformed. New recruits had arrived, transfers from other cities who'd volunteered to help rebuild Millstone PD. The officer processing them looked up with something like hope. 30 new officers, Chief. All clean records, all wanting to be part of the change." It was a start. But as Lena looked out at her city, she knew the real battle was just beginning. Thornton would be free soon, working to reclaim his empire. The gangs were quiet, but not convinced. The public was divided, unsure whether she was hero or villain. Her phone rang. An unknown number, but she recognized the voice immediately. It was Thornton. "Congratulations, Chief. You've awakened something you can't control. The people I answer to, they're not happy about the disruption. They're coming to Millstone." "Who are you talking about?" "You'll find out soon enough. But a word of advice, some wars can't be won. Some systems are too big to fight. You had your moment of glory, exposed local corruption. Take the win and walk away." "I don't walk away." "Then you'll be carried away. This is bigger than you think, Chief. Millstone was just one node in a network that spans the country. You've inconvenienced them. They don't like being inconvenienced." He hung up, leaving Lena with a chill that had nothing to do with the evening air. Who was behind Thornton? How far did this really go? As she stood in her office looking at the wall where her investigation had once been mapped, she realized she'd only seen the tip of the iceberg. Thornton wasn't the endgame, he was just middle management in something much larger. But she'd come too far to stop now. Aaron was free, his record clean. The community was starting to believe in change. Good cops were joining the force. It was progress, messy and incomplete, but real. Chen knocked and entered. "Chief, there's someone here to see you. Says she has information about Thornton's bosses." A woman entered mid-40s, professionally dressed, but with the haunted look of someone who'd seen too much. "My name is Rebecca Stone. I was Thornton's accountant for 10 years. I know where the money comes from, where it goes, and who really controls it." "Why come forward now?" "Because Thornton's arrest means I'm a loose end. They'll kill me to protect themselves, unless I help you stop them first." Lena studied the woman, seeing genuine fear, but also determination. "Tell me everything." "Not here. The station isn't secure. Thornton had people everywhere, and his bosses have even more. But I can show you proof. Documents, recordings, financial trails that lead to people you wouldn't believe are involved." "Such as?" Rebecca pulled out a single photograph. It showed Thornton at a dinner party with several other people. Lena recognized some faces: a senator, a federal judge, the CEO of a major corporation. This was taken at what they call a coordination meeting. They meet quarterly to divide territory, set prices, and eliminate problems. Millstone is just one of dozens of cities they control. The scope was staggering. If true, this was organized crime at a level that dwarfed anything Lena had imagined. "We need to get you to the FBI." "No, the FBI has moles. That's how Thornton always stayed one step ahead. We need to be smarter." "Then what do you suggest?" "We gather evidence quietly, build an airtight case, then release it all at once publicly so they can't suppress it." It was exactly what Lena had done with Thornton, but on a much larger scale. And far more dangerous. "You realize what you're asking? We'd be taking on some of the most powerful people in the country." "I'm not asking. I'm offering. You can take the information or not. But if you do, we need to move fast. They're already looking for me." Lena made her decision. "Chen set up a safe house, not through official channels. Use my personal funds. Rebecca, you're under my protection." As Rebecca was led away, Lena realized she was standing at another crossroads. She could consolidate her victories in Millstone, rebuild the department, and accept that some corruption was too big to fight. Or she could follow this thread wherever it led, whatever it cost. Her phone buzzed. Aaron texting, "Saw the news about Thornton's bail. You okay?" She texted back, "Yes, but this isn't over. It's just beginning." Looking out at Millstone's lights, Lena thought about her father, about his belief in justice, about the oath she'd taken to protect and serve. She'd already brought down a corrupt network that had seemed invincible. Maybe, just maybe, she could do it again. The war for Millstone was won, but a larger war was looming. And Lena Carter, who'd started this journey seeking justice for her brother, was ready to see it through to the end, whatever that end might be.